This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.
That's number one. You kind of reset your
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
same shoulder length and the other.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I'm Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor. Brandy Rashidian is my other half, and
not a chiropractor.
Today she will be introducing the show, but before we do that, the Real Health Podcast is brought to you by the Frederick Podcast Network. Can be found on listenfrederick.com. And Real Health Podcast is where we take all the latest information on health and wellness, whatever you find in the mainstream media, news, and so on. And we want to kind of help digest it for you and show you how it applies to your life, what to think about it, what's real, what's not real. And we want to bring it to you from a non-surgical, drug-free perspective. And our goal is to always help you feel better, get stronger, and live longer. And we took about a month off in December, and now we are back. So we're glad that you're back with us. And Happy New Year to everyone, since this is the first podcast of the new year,
2026.
2026.
I'm actually really excited for the year.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot of good things on the horizon.
When I see like a low number for the year, I always think about like 1926 and go, what's happened in 100 years? It's powerful.
Gosh. Yeah, so
And then
much.
to think I've been alive for more than half of that 100 years. That's a thought.
Yeah.
So
it's a little weird, especially because we joke, but seriously, we promised each other we'd never grow up when we got married. That was like one of our things, because we didn't want to be like old and serious and not have fun.
Right.
Not saying that everybody ends up there, but we wanted to very intentionally make sure that we didn't focus so much on aging, because it happens anyway. So we're going to keep ourselves healthy and just keep our minds as young as possible, our hearts as young as possible, so that we just are having a good time and life doesn't.
What's the
have to
number
feel
one
so
secret
hard.
to doing that?
Laughing.
Yeah.
Well, and poor memory helps too. I don't usually remember how old I am, so that's helpful.
Yeah. So I would say having a forgiving spirit and, you know, putting the past behind.
Yeah.
Always looking forward. When you look forward, you're like, then you say, this is the first day of the rest of my life.
Right.
When you look backwards, you go, this is the last day of the first part of my life. I don't know. I mean, it's the same day, but
Yeah. I see what you're saying, but I will say that there is a lot of value in really looking at your life retrospectively. You know, and is that the right word? I think that's a good word.
Yeah.
I think there's value in that. Sometimes we need to go back through some of our wins and losses so that we can really see what's been done for us. We can see how we've been guided.
Yeah.
I think it really helps us to become more courageous in our future.
I think ultimately the best thing to do is stay present in the moment.
I think it's good.
Because if we're sitting here right now and going, gosh, you know, I wish it was 1998, you know,
Sure.
Life was great, blah, blah. You're kind of dwelling on the past.
I agree. I
Or
don't
if
think
you
should
sit
do
here
that.
and you play the victim and say, oh, 1998 is when that happened, and ever since then I've been suffering from
Right.
that because of what they did to me or what happened or whatever, then
I
you're
agree.
stuck in the past. But certainly you want to reflect on the past.
For sure. Well, there's a book that we always loved, in addition to your books, which we love, which was When God Blinks by Rushnell Squire.
When God winks.
Or When God Winks, sorry. He probably blinks too, but
God doesn't blink.
he might blink.
I
You
don't
do
know.
not know that.
Mm-mm.
But I think that that book is so good at showing you how to reflect back on some of those big things, you know, some
Right.
of those transitional times in your life, and how,
Yeah.
you know, you've been guided that entire time.
Yeah,
whether or not you realize
Rushnell
it.
Esquire is the author of that book. He was actually an ABC anchorman, I think, at one point, and then he decided to write that book.
Yeah.
And he's of the Jewish faith, but he talks about how when you look back at your life, you'll see coincidences. You don't notice they're coincidences
think
until
they're coincidences.
later. Yeah, but it's actually God orchestrating your path, and he winks at you. Like a certain number shows up all the time, in your life, that's God's wink at
Yeah.
you saying, I got your back. I'm still here. I'm still with you. That's why I said he doesn't blink, because he doesn't miss anything. He
does not
he
miss
sees
anything.
everything.
Yes.
So
Well, as we begin this year, Amir and I had really talked about how we wanted to kick off this year. I was actually hoping our new location would be ready, so we'd have our new backdrop, a new setup, but we are not quite there yet. I do think it'll happen this month, so stick with us for that. We'll be having some more changes as we go through. But Amir and I really felt led to share our stories individually. A friend of ours who has a podcast, they shared their stories personally and just their journey, and it was really powerful. And I think as an audience, I love getting to know some of the people that I listen to, because it helps to set a context or a foundation from where they jump off with their thoughts, their feelings, I think that's important to know who you're talking to. It allows us to connect a little bit more. We want to share the story not as doctors or business owners, but just as people who've really been shaped by God's hand through life, through true hardship, and actually through hope as well. So today I get to sit down with my best friend. You see, we have tissues because I don't know if we'll get through this, either one of us, without tears. Look, starting already. So I'm sitting down with my bestie, my husband. He told me that if I start to tear up, I can use a weird accent, and maybe that'll help me. Maybe you should tell your story in a weird accent, and that will help me.
yeah.
So if he goes into
Want to be British?
Sure. Your
Or-
Russian accent's pretty good too. So it's actually a Gru accent. It's not
That's
true.
right. And we don't know where Gru was from. The movie Despicable Me.
Yeah, that was a good one. So we're going to sit down today and we're going to hear about your childhood in Iran, what brought you and your family, your journey, coming to America, the struggles that you faced here, and really the faith that carried you through all of it. So it's a big story. So it's filled with a lot of stuff: courage, resilience, purpose. So whether you're driving, walking, taking some quiet time, just buckle in and enjoy. All right, Amir. This is your story.
Well, yeah. So, I was born in 1974.
Yeah.
And
So he has a baby face. He's older than he looks.
yeah. So this year I'll be turning 52. So you don't have to do the math.
Thank you. That was for me.
but I'm closer to 51 than 52 right now. And but the reason I say 51 is because my father was 51 when I was born. So
That's crazy when you think
I
about
am now the age my dad was when I was born. And so 51 years ago, the number 51 sounded a lot older than it does today. Maybe because I'm 51 or
it's
whatever
relative
else
for sure.
it might be. But I just look around. We have friends who are 60 and 65 years old, and we have friends who are just barely turning 40. And a lot, in between, and it doesn't seem like that. I mean, I feel like back then, if someone was in their 50s, they were really considered old, and even people who were in their 50s acted differently. And if you look at pictures of 50 years ago, people in their 50s, and look at today, people in their 50s, I think we look different.
We do.
So, but the reason I say that, Dad thought he wasn't going to live very long. He thought, because I was his fifth biological child. He had an adopted son as well, so I was technically the sixth one.
Right.
Dad had a family, 3 sons and a daughter, when he was young, and he raised them and adopted one as well, and got them all successful, and they were doing well. Then he fell in love with an 18-year-old woman when he was, I believe, 41. And then they got married when she was 18. And so there's more to that story. I don't know if I want to share all of that. But they got married, and then when my mom was 27, so 9 years later, is when I was born. But so at 51, my earliest childhood memory from my dad is he would always say, I'm not going to be around much longer. I'm going to die soon. So I better teach you everything I know before I go.
But there's a little bit of beauty in that, because I think as a child I had a similar, instance we'll talk about on another episode, but I think it makes you like really dig in and remember moments. Like I have such early childhood moments because of similar,
Yeah.
things being told to me, that it really helps you to dig in.
Right.
So you have some really vivid, cool memories that you get to share because of that.
I think I was like 3 years old when Dad would open these books. We didn't have QuickBooks and Quicken and software back then, so all the stuff was on paper, and he would be showing me his profit loss statements for his business and his balance sheet, and talking about cash flow and why profit is important and how to keep overhead low. And 3 years old, I'm reading balance sheets and talking about business with him, but a lot of life lessons too. So it was neat, but he was only with us every other week, because every other week he was with his other family, and so that family was in Tehran, and our family was in Saudi. Saudi is up north by the Caspian Sea. So if you guys are following what's happening in Iran right now in the news, there's a lot going on, but the map of Iran's been I don't know. Actually, the mainstream media is not really reporting on a lot of that, but you may be following it on your favorite podcast or whatever.
I think we're 11 or 12 days in, maybe a little bit more than that, from the start of this particular conflict.
Yeah, there's been a pretty big uprising over there, but the town I grew up in, which is called Saudi, got involved recently. Protests started there a couple days ago.
That's
and
awesome.
Cars are burning and people are chanting. So the town was up north by the Caspian Sea, so we were 30 minutes from the beach, and then we had a villa 2 hours away on the beach that we could spend summers in. And so when I was born in 1974, it was the height of Iranian prosperity, and it was about to get better because Iran had that deal, the OPEC deal, that was going to expire in 79. And in 79, when the deal would end, oil prices would go up and Iran would become one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. Maybe the second or third wealthiest countries in the whole world. And already they were doing very, very well under the Shah, the previous monarch. And what's interesting is in 1950, when he was crowned king, he turned around and crowned his wife as queen.
I love that.
Because he said that this is not a monarchy, it's a dual monarchy, and my wife is going to rule with me.
Right, which was very much ahead of their time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially like in comparison to the U.S. and other countries, they were still struggling very much with.
In the 50s is when the United States had all those, civil rights protests for women's rights.
Yep.
And over there, they were treating women equal
Yeah.
with men.
Now that changed when the regime changed very much.
That's right.
But there was a season where it was like that,
Yeah.
and it was very beautiful and very prosperous.
Life was amazing. We would spend anywhere between 3 to 8 weeks in Europe every summer. We just hop on a plane because Iran's close to Europe. There was plenty of money. Dad was doing well. He was semi-retired when I was born. He started a construction company,
Right.
and it became really big. It was something like third largest construction company in Iran. And he built some hospitals, government agencies, government buildings, and apartment buildings, and so on. And then he kept some of those buildings for himself, and the rent was enough, so he really didn't have to work that much anymore. Until the revolution. He was a permanent resident of the U.S. as well, so he would go back and forth.
Right.
He was supposed to spend at least 1 month a year in the U.S. to maintain his permanent residency. So not only did I not see him every week, I saw him every other week, but then 1 month out of the year he was in
Right.
the United States while I was in Iran.
And by that time, some of his other kids had already come over to the
Some
U.S.
of them were in the U.S., yeah.
So.
Yep, most of them I think were in the U.S. Like my oldest half brother was a TV anchorman in Iran, and then he became a OBGYN in the United States, and another one became a college professor or university professor, and another one did very well in business, and my half sister did well too. But I really don't know them. I don't have a relationship with them at all. I've never even seen my half sister,
Right.
not even once. The others I've seen, I've spoken to a few times, but we're basically strangers. So, but travel to Europe regularly. Everything was great. We had a beautiful home, the villa. We'd go spend summers by the beach, and then in '79 the revolution started,
And everything
and
changed.
there was a guy who said that this is going to sound familiar. Said you shouldn't pay for bus rides in the city.
Hold on, New York.
Grocery stores should be free. Iran has enough money, and he told them, he said, stop paying your electric bills, stop paying your water bill, and get in the streets and protest because there's so much money in Iran. No one should have to pay for anything, and we're going to bring freedom. And we're going to have prosperity, and you get to keep your money. Don't pay your taxes. He actually did these speeches. He was in France, I think, at the time. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Try pronouncing that one.
I cannot.
And
I've tried, and you correct me every time.
so comes from the back of the throat. Khomeini. And he people fell for it. So everyone thinks it was an Islamic revolution. It wasn't. Iran is not really a Muslim country. Iran is the only non-Arab country in the Middle East. Actually, they're Aryan. And so they call them the Persian. Persian is actually a race. It's not really a nationality. And, Persia actually had a different name. It was something like Iran. Anyways. But Iran, the word means land of Aryans. So 70% of Iranians don't even know what Islam is because they don't speak Arabic, and you're not supposed to translate the Quran into any other language. So
That's helpful.
They memorize these prayers that they have no idea what they
mean.
say, and most of them just don't do it either. So, but it was not a religious revolution. The Islamic Republic of Iran is what formed because Khomeini came to Iran. They kicked out the Shah. The Shah had said, you cannot fire on the protesters. You need to respect them. They have an opinion. We need to listen to them. And so they got weapons. They fought, and no one was fighting back. And so they took over the country, and they brought back this guy who turned the country into the Islamic Republic, and Sharia law and all that stuff. And next thing you know, there's more poverty than ever before, more oppression. Women had to cover their hair. You can't go out of the house wearing shorts or short sleeve shirts. And music was illegal. Dancing is still illegal.
I remember the first time we went, it was, and even before, looking at the family photo albums of the pre-Iran, the pre-revolution Iran. Just, man, it was like looking at photos of the U.S. Do you know what I mean? It
was very modern, very westernized.
Yeah, it's very sad to see how much how they just cracked down and the freedoms were just stolen from individuals.
Frank Sinatra and Barbara Streisand used to vacation in Iran.
I can see why. It's amazing, and the people are
Elizabeth Taylor
unbelievable.
too.
Yeah, so neat.
Some of our audience don't know who those people are.
So tell us a little bit about how the revolution impacted your family personally, and how that kind of spurred your family's journey to exit Iran.
Yeah, I mean, first thing that happened was schools became segregated, so boys went to a different school than girls, and so my elementary school became 1 week the in the mornings was boys, the afternoon was girls, and the following week the morning was the opposite. They would switch.
Interesting.
And so every other week you're going to school only in the mornings or only in the afternoons. And over there, this was always the case. The weekends are only one day. Fridays their weekend. And so so you go to school 6 days a week. People work 6 days a week. That's normal. And
it was normal before the revolution.
It was.
Correct?
That didn't change. Yeah. But one of the rulings they did was they said no one's allowed to have two homes. So we used to go to our villa at the beach, and we would pretend we lived there so they wouldn't confiscate it. And one day the soldiers poured into the house. They beat my dad. They drug him out of there like he's some kind of criminal, and they confiscated the villa. So
How old were you then?
Probably 6.
Gosh.
Yeah, I was 5 during the revolution. So when the revolution was going on, I remember one time I was in the back of my mom and dad's Datsun, and we were we came around the corner, and it was rioting, and the car stopped, and it was gridlock traffic. No one could go anywhere, and there's yelling, screaming, batons, tear gas. And my parents said, "Get down, don't look." So I got down on the floor of the car, and it was mainly for safety. But I peeked and I looked, and I saw this man with a knife in his chest. I mean, he had been stabbed. I mean, I was a kid. I was 5 years old, so it feels like it was yesterday.
It's burned into your
But I
memory.
go, but I replay it and I go, how could that have happened? But he was walking. He had a white shirt, lots of blood, and gray pants and dress shoes. And he took a few steps. He fell to his knees. He was saying some kind of prayer, and then he started to fall forward, and I ducked back down. And then I decided I probably don't want to look anymore.
It was a reminder of how important obedience is.
Yeah. But that's how it was. I remember another time we were driving from Tehran to Sari, and every third house was on fire.
Mhm.
Because a lot of these revolutionaries people who supported the old regime, they would go burn their house. And so we're driving, and there's nobody else on the road. It's nighttime. You literally feel like you're driving through hell. It's dark, and there's just blazes,
Buildings burning.
homes on fire. And I remember my dad going, "Oh, that's Colonel so-and-so's house. I hope he got out. Oh, that's General so-and-so's house. I hope he got out." And just he knew them. He knew the names of all the people whose homes were on fire. But yeah, we lost the villa. A lot of freedom. They would tell us, because our family was not pro-revolution at the time, and they said that if kids say something about their parents, the Basij, which was like their secret police, would go to their home and kidnap the parents and take them, and the kids would never see their parents again. So there were stories of kids would go home after school,
And there'd be no
and the
parents.
parents wouldn't be there, and they'd have no idea. So they kept telling me these stories and saying, "Do not repeat what you hear when you're outside." So I couldn't say anything against the regime. I couldn't say anything against. I mean, talk about, yeah. I think we take freedom of speech very much for granted here.
I think we're starting, though, over the past 4 years, we've seen our freedom of speech tempered, right? We've seen them go, you can't say that. How many things can we not say on YouTube?
Right.
There are so many words that you cannot say out loud,
Right.
because you will get canceled. So we live in a cancel culture right now.
Right.
It's better than it was last year, for sure. But the reality is, if you say something, even in America right now, and there's an overarching theme that people do not want out, you still run the risk of getting censored.
Yeah.
It's not to that extreme. I don't think, well, I can't say. There may be some people that have gotten kidnapped for things they've said. I don't know. I hear stories all the
It's
time.
happening in Europe.
Yeah, it is for sure happening in
People
the
are
UK.
getting arrested for what they post.
Yeah, and Canada, Australia, those kinds of countries are following suit. China, that it's there.
Yep.
So it's not far from the realm of possibility, even seeing what we've seen in our country, to see paths towards that kind of, maybe not the extreme type of censorship, but we still see it a lot, and it's a shame. So
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But the when masks became mandatory in the United States during the pandemic, I was having massive flashbacks of the revolution in Iran,
I
when they
bet.
would say you have to cover your hair before you go outside. And women were terrified,
Yeah.
because if a little bit of their hair showed, they would get arrested and beaten, and a lot of atrocities that were done to them for that.
yeah, it's very sad.
And, I mean, some of them would be beaten to death because they showed some hair.
Mhm.
So, like in the Muslim world, women are worth half a man, like in the court system.
Mm.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah. So, anyways, what else? the war started.
So, yep, the war started. So they took your property, right?
Yeah.
They took the beach house.
But that was after Revolution.
After the revolution, took your beach house. And then the war started.
Yeah, Saddam Hussein decided if Iran doesn't have a formal government and a formal military, they should be slim picking. So they decided to attack. And it's interesting. There's a story that said where all the fighter pilots were in prison because they were part of the old regime. So the fake military at the time, they pulled them out of prison and they said, we're under attack. Will you fly for Iran? And they said, absolutely, but under one condition. You're going to fly the old flag and play the old national anthem.
That's pretty cool. And they did it.
They did it one time, and these people got in their planes and defended Iran. And Saddam Hussein couldn't take an inch of Iranian soil, ultimately.
That's amazing.
And I think the war lasted 8 or 9 years.
Were you there when the war started? You were, okay.
Yeah. But I was up in Sari, Sari by the Caspian Sea. There was no bombing there. So that we experienced the bombing when we'd go to Tehran. But in Tehran, people would get bombed every night. So people would put tape on their windows so that, because the Iraqi planes, once they dropped their bombs, they would fly low and do a sonic boom to shatter all the windows. And so people's windows would shatter. And so they put tape on it. So when it shattered, the glass wouldn't fly in and kill people. But a lot of people got hurt. I mean, I knew a family that had a pool and a bomb fell in the pool and dug a hole and went under the house and didn't explode. So they packed all the stuff and moved out.
Yeah, no kidding. That's not a home you want to stay in.
I don't know if the bomb ever exploded, but that's the stuff they were dealing with. It's just these air raid sirens and planes flying over and bombs flying. Just incredibly scary times. So we had in Iran, in Sari, there was a park across the street. It's a beautiful park. It's a park again now. They took the wall down, but they put this big, tall brick wall around it. We used to go walk there. In Iran, you walk after dinner. Everybody, when you eat dinner, you go outside, you go for a walk. And so we would go to the park, which was across the street. But they put a wall, barbed wire on top, turned it into a prisoners of war camp. So the Iraqi prisoners were put in there, and every once in a while they'd escape, and bullets would be flying through the streets. They'd get a gun or something, they'd be shooting and all this stuff. And we'd all go hide in our homes. We'd kind of crouch down so we weren't in front of a window in case a bullet came in. A couple of times bullets did come in through the glass in our home. But there would be, we had this small area which was like an orange tree orchard up front. And then we had a gate in front of our house. And there was a buzzer. So it'd buzz, and we had a little phone thing that we'd pick up and say, hello, who's there? And we'd buzz people in. The gate would open, and they would come in through the yard and come in the house. And whenever there'd be these bullets flying through the streets and fighting in the streets, someone would ring our bell. And you if you say, hello, who is it? If it's the Iranian soldiers, they would just break it down and come in anyways. And if it's the Iraqi one, then they might want to take you hostage so that so they could escape. So you have to buzz them in, no matter who it is. And these soldiers would pour into your house, search everything. It was 2-level house. You've been there. They would go to the roof, check the roof, everything else, and they would leave. But it was terrifying to see people with, rifles and.
We had one time when I was there. We actually had the police come to the house to search. Do you remember? Because they thought there was a satellite. Yeah. I was panicked. So. Yeah.
And one time we got pulled over, right? Didn't we get pulled over? And we had to prove that we were married because like dating is illegal.
Right. You can't.
A man and a woman can't be alone together unless they're actually married. So even if you have just a girl, even if you're boyfriend, girlfriend, you have to go to court and get it registered as a concubine.
Live radio, local podcasts, the Frederick Podcast Network at listenfrederick.com.